Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Coach Bully here, Coach Gully there, and we are Casual Takes from the 10,000 Lakes. You like our new motto?
I like it.
Now, it's not official, but if you guys come up with something better, another one was Coaches on the Couch that might make your ears go ouch. And I don't know, that one might kind of rip us a little bit, but we're here to rip and have some fun.
Exactly.
A lot of fun
And,
stuff coming up here.
and
Gully.
who are we?
We are the Couch Coaches,
Exactly.
where we are the casuals from our couch, eating Cheetos, talking sports.
Yeah. Maybe a slice of pizza here and there.
Maybe some pizza and a beer.
Yeah. Exactly. Cold snack.
Yeah, that's right. So, a lot of stuff popped up over the week since our last recording. And so we tried to pick and choose a couple of topics. And number one was last night's game. Celtics go up 3-0. Gully, you had the Celtics going 4-2. I think I had them 4-1. And I was actually kind of nervous about that. I am very confident that it will be 4-1, maybe even 4-0. Do you feel a sweep?
I do. I think last night's win, I thought of any time that the Mavericks were going to win was going to be last night's game. And the reason why I say that, they're home. Yeah, had Porzingis injury, right? You had the crowd was crazy. They were super loud and into it, and I mean, they made it a game up until halftime.
They made it a game late in the fourth.
That's true
come
too.
back, but they blew
That's
an
true.
opportunity to take control of the game themselves, and they put themselves into a hole which they had to climb out of. And at home, you can't do that in basically a must-win game 3 down 2-0. You can't be down 3-0 because we just saw what happens down 3-0. You just ain't gonna win.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
now you have to go back to, even if you win this game, you have 2 games in Boston. That is not going to go in your favor.
Agreed.
I can maybe see him taking this one. I thought Porzingis out was going to make a little bit more of a difference. It turns out it did not.
Yep. It really didn't.
Kyrie had a good game, 35 points.
He did.
Luka put up 27, fouled out. And Tatum and Jaylen Brown, I think, had 30 each. Or about 30 each. So
Yep. And to go along with that, I was going to say, Brown and Tatum each had several rebounds and several assists each. I mean, although Luka always gets his assists.
he does.
He's pretty crazy with his blind passes, no look passes.
Right. Yep. Feeding the guy in the corner or making a guy step up to know that he's going to be open there, down low or for an easy oop or something. So he definitely does have that vision. The attitude, on the other hand, is a problem for him. And it's been kind of a story going on. Even one of the sideline reporters of the game was saying how bad it was that this caused him the game, crying on the ground, always trying to get a foul. Meanwhile, they're 5-on-4 scoring easy buckets.
Right.
I mean, if there's a stat out there that shows how many times that he left his team to hang and how many points they gave up, that could be a difference maker.
Absolutely.
And I know the guy's a stud, but you got to knock that off. It's not even fun to watch, man. It is
I agree.
Out of control.
I agree. That's one of the things that really has been bugging me lately with watching the NBA, and it has been for a number of years. First, it was the flop, right?
Yeah, right.
Everybody flopping, and then at least the NBA came up and said, "Hey, we're going to follow you for a flop, right?" But now it's gotten to the point to where so many people, and obviously I might be a little biased because we're in Minnesota. I watch the Timberwolves. And Cat seems to be one of the biggest whiners out there.
Yep.
And I don't get me wrong. I mean, sometimes they're justified.
Right.
But there are, most of the time it's not. It's just It just gets to be a little overdone.
When it seems like it's every play, and granted, Ant does it a handful of times, and
Mhm.
it's even bothersome as a fan of Ant that he drives in for a layup and he swings his arm up. Where's the and one? And sometimes he leaves his own team back to dry again. And it's you got in order to mature, you got to get out of that stage.
Yeah, well, even Tatum did that last night. Towards the end of the game, he was coming in. He made his layup, but he felt he got fouled and he was raising his hands. Meanwhile, everybody's running up the court, and then he kicked it in high gear and boogied back. So, I mean, he at least he was aware enough that he had to get going
Yeah,
and stop the complaining.
you can definitely sense a difference with Boston and Dallas in just this game alone. Not stating any other game, but in this game alone, the the difference of whining, and you can see
Mhm.
who's doing it more and the results that are coming from it, or just
Yep.
they're Boston seems to just shrug it off and play ball, and they're going after it.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
and Luca has been targeted on defense, something that the Timberwolves didn't do.
Right.
And we had talked about it that when he was on Jay McDaniels,
Yeah.
and he was not an offensive powerhouse. So Luca just kind of stood back and we never got him into foul trouble. Now we see the difference of putting him into foul trouble on
Hmm.
what Boston is doing. And it's almost embarrassing that the Timberwolves got spanked by Dallas, seeing this ass whooping already. And I kind of wonder
Right.
if Minnesota would have been a better matchup against Boston.
You know, I obviously I would have loved to see us make it to the championship and play the Celtics.
Right.
Uh, and I think we would have been. There goes a cat.
Kitty.
Yeah, but yeah. Sorry, I lost my train of thought with the
You're
cat.
good. Yeah.
But yes, I think the Timberwolves would have maybe put up a better fight, just because of our defense.
Mhm.
Right. I mean, we are the number one defense. I think Boston is number four in defense. Um, Yeah, I think, and overall, I think our team is probably a little bit deeper than the Mavs. I mean,
Right.
they have their two superstars, kind of like we do,
Mhm.
but I think overall, just depth wise, I think we're a better team. So, but it is what it is.
I wonder how the matchups would have been, if McDaniels played on Tatum and Ant plays on Jalen and Conley plays on Holiday and Cat plays on Porzingis and Gobert plays on Horford. I mean, every one of those kind of seems, I shouldn't say equal because Tatum is obviously better than McDaniels and whatnot, but just on strengths of offense and defense, every player seems to kind of match up. So it would have been interesting. And I can't remember how if Minnesota ended up splitting the regular season with Boston. I think they might have only played 2 games though, like a home and home.
Sure.
So I'm not completely aware. Um, but yeah, it definitely would have been interesting if they had enough energy left in the season hypothetically if they made it to the finals, how Minnesota would have fared.
Right.
They could have gotten their ass whipped too. I mean, who knows?
Well, maybe that's something for the viewers. Tell us what it was, or tell us what you think about how the Timberwolves would have been against the Celtics. Are we just being homers, or give us your thoughts.
Did
I'd be
they?
interested.
Yeah, did they stand a chance? I really thought they did after Denver, after the Mavericks. I second guessed myself, but then the Mavericks, everyone was starting to favor after they beat the Timberwolves, and now we saw how that happened. Now it's doesn't mean that one is far superior than the other. The matchups are just completely different. So I mean, it doesn't mean it's Boston, Dallas, Minnesota way down here,
Yeah,
they could still be up there just because of the matchup differences and, utilizing the mismatches that Dallas did against Minnesota. It was, um, they made it count. They made it count.
right. Yeah.
Um, with the whole Luca deal, my proposal that I was brainstorming last night was if to stop the whining, how about we give team technicals? Maybe not player technicals, but team technicals. And before I get into that, when I
Mhm.
played basketball and when I coached basketball, it was the same two concepts. Players, you go play. You let the coach back you up. Let him
Sure.
speak for you.
Yep.
Now, if you want to be respectful after a timeout or during a free throw and ask, hey, what did I do wrong? Or what are you seeing? Or hey, say something nice to him, don't have a problem with that. But if you're
Right.
just always up in arms every single play, I think that they need to come down on that and maybe give a team technical, and they're already shooting free throws on the other end.
Yep.
Um, Maybe allow extra challenges so that the coach and the team can review the play or a foul or a non-foul or something to
That's
get
right.
all right, and they can just go to the coach and say, hey, let's try this out before I start doing something that I shouldn't.
I wonder if that's something that they could, you know, I would like to see them try that out. At least, start it off in the preseason. It's just to start to get players used to it because that's kind of like what baseball did with the whole like, pitching clock,
Yeah,
right? And how fast you got to get release the
and
ball,
the
or
and
same
the
thing with the batters.
extra inning second base runner.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that rule, but that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean
Can't be a fan of every rule.
it stops games from going 18 innings for the most part. So, and I think that's kind of what they're trying to minimize. But
Sure.
yeah, I would like to see something come about. It's been just more drastic this year, and it's always going to be more drastic probably every year, just because social media is on every outlet possible.
Well,
This
yeah.
happened back in the 80s and the 90s. We just didn't have Facebook and TikTok and all these other video platforms to show everyone within 10 seconds.
And you got Yahoos like us bringing it up, and
Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah. The
so
wannabe expert sport takers,
exact. Well,
we're
we
just
are.
we're
I'm
just
just kidding.
expert
Just kidding.
makers.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's my proposal anyway. Maybe we should start a petition and get that going because I'm tired of seeing that. That's
Yeah.
our little rant from the Luca Weiner mobile.
Right. Absolutely.
Another rant that that we're going to bring up. I think today is Rant Thursday,
Yes.
and we'll have to come up with a new sound bite for that. But Twins unveiled some new uniforms. We'll say.
Yes.
To me, they look like um, the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, the old Devil Rays back in the day, mixed with the old Milwaukee Brewers colors, and they came out with nothing that represents Minnesota in my opinion.
I would agree with you there. Well, so I got a chance to see one on Tuesday night when I was doing the bag leagues. They have this patch on one arm. I don't know if it's reminiscent of a loon's wings or if it's a mosquito's wings. I have no idea. Yeah. I mean, it's just so dumb looking. And then on top of it, I just the pattern on the jersey itself, it reminds me of a dart jersey or a bowling jersey.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just I don't know. And then the bright yellow brim. Yeah, I mean, if they would have went maybe with a blue red combo, you might have sold me, but I think it's just god awful. It's
it's not good. It's to
no.
me hideous, and yeah, like
Yes.
it just doesn't represent to me anything Minnesota like Minnesota Twins are about Minneapolis and St. Paul, the Minnie and Paul, right?
Absolutely.
So they they've always kind of endorsed that theme with what was the Twin Cities jerseys across the chest. I don't know what version of jerseys that is. That's starting to I'm starting to buy into that one a little bit more. I didn't like it at first. I'm starting to fall for that one a little bit more. I think they're
Yeah,
becoming a little bit more clean.
you're talking about like the white jersey with it's such a dark blue it almost looks black,
Yeah.
or it's kind of in script.
Yep. Yep.
I am actually a pretty big fan of that. That's kind of like old school, like
Yeah.
baseball jerseys. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm starting to like that. I do really like the font slash numbers font that the Twins associated with their new uniforms. I don't know if you've paid attention to the number font, but it does kind of represent like the old Twins with the swoosh underneath. It's
Oh,
kind of
okay. I guess
unique.
I
Yeah,
didn't
when
notice
you
that.
start paying attention to the numbers, you'll be like, wow, that's kind of a neat little thing. And I actually kind of like
Yeah.
those. The M, I do not like the M at all. I wish they would have done something throwbacky to the early '90s M. Not
Yes.
this. This one just looks like the Miami Marlins to me.
Oh, you're talking about their new
The
M.
new M with the North Star on top.
Yes, it completely reminds me of the Florida Marlins.
Yeah,
It
I
completely
don't.
reminds me of.
It
Yep.
doesn't brand Minnesota to me.
Or
It's a copy from someone else.
yeah, yeah. It really is. It's not good.
I do like when they, and it's very rare. Maybe they don't do it anymore. But when they wore either the dark blue
Mm-hmm.
or the red jerseys, I've always been a fan of the
Yes.
red jerseys, and they don't wear the baby blues anymore.
Oh, they don't.
I
I
don't think
guess I haven't
so.
watched many games this year. I went to home opener, and that's pretty much about it. But I'm not a huge fan of the baby blue. Got to figure when I was growing up, that's what they
This
played.
is a long
And
time ago, chat.
yes, longer than I care to admit. But yeah, I always imagine, and you can look it up, Bob Randall and a Twins jersey, baby blue, and it's just hideous. I'm just not a fan of that. I like I like when we switched uniforms there in the late '80s with the pinstripes,
Uh-huh.
the new M. That's classic uniform. And then when they brought back the TC,
I was
right?
happy about that.
Yeah, when they brought back the TC, because I'm a fan of that logo itself and the hat, the
Yeah.
dark blue hat. Yeah, I like that. And then, like you were saying, with the red jersey with the big TC on it. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. As much as, and we brought this up before, how everything just cycles back around, right? The retros become ugly and then the retros become cool again because the new thing
Yeah,
isn't so clean anymore. Going back to the old M
right.
just seems better because of the new M sucks. But when
Yep.
the old M was around, it was get this hideous thing away from me. So
Right.
when we finally got the TC, it was, a relief, a relief.
Yep.
Another Minnesota team got some new uniforms as well, Gully.
They did. They did.
The Minnesota Vikings came out with their Winter Warrior, all whites with a white helmet. Thoughts
Yes.
on that?
I think they're sharp. I think they're really clean. Um, yeah, I don't think you can really say anything too bad about them. They're just very sharp.
The pattern, I think, even like on the sewing is like the same pattern you would see on like the side of a Viking ship on how they
Oh, really?
engrave their ships. I thought that was kind of a neat little detail that's so
Yeah.
subtle but makes an impact. Now, if you look at the Vikings field, the end zone is white and purple, right?
Yep.
And they always say purple and gold, but yet everything seems to be white and purple. So now we finally got a jersey or uniform that is completely white and purple, no gold.
Yep.
And I think it's the best thing they've come up with outside of having an all purple. I do like an all purple.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the all purple. But you know, maybe I'm showing my age again, but I'm a fan of the old, purple people eaters days. The little bit darker purple, the stripes on the sleeves. I'm not really, the old school numbers where they didn't have the little swoops on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are my favorite uniforms. But yeah, I would agree with you. I think these Winter Warrior jerseys are probably the best thing since even then.
And a couple other teams came out with some new uniforms too, offhand. If you guys want to check them out on your own, I'm not going to post them up here. But the Jets made some slight changes. I think there's side stripes or something on their arms. The Texans, to me, look sweet as all hell.
Yes, I like the
I
Texans.
think the Jaguars may have, or unless they just recently did. But speaking of the Jaguars, because this just got brought up a few minutes ago. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence just got a massive payday.
Oh, did he really?
5 years, 275. I think he's going to be the highest paid annual quarterback.
Ooh.
Is he even worth that type of dollar figure? I don't know what my math
I don't
is.
know.
55 a year? 55 a year, I think.
I think he's shown that that he can carry the team. I mean, and he showed his grit last year when he got injured, and they didn't think he was going to play the next week, and he played with the bad wheel. But yeah, I don't know. I guess it remains to be seen. But they had to do something, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise,
how much is too much to pay a quarterback? I mean, is it starting to become out of hand? I know we talked a little bit about it in the last episode when we brought up Jefferson's contract. But as far as quarterbacks go, and you mentioned that the general on the field, they have more responsibilities to do. They're involved on every snap. But at what point is $60 million too much when another star athlete on the team's getting paid 10? I mean, does that cause ruckus in the locker room? Is it a congratulations? Is there jealousy? I mean, there's a whole lot that can be said on it. And everyone else out there is probably saying, yeah, $55 million a year is probably way too much. And I totally get it. But if someone offers you, you're probably going to say yes. So don't tell me that you wouldn't take it. But I'm wondering, is the quarterback market ever going to decline?
I don't think so. And really, to be honest, I mean, it's just like kind of inflation in general, right? Prices always go up, and that's just kind of the way it is with athletes as well. Their contracts, you're always going to get, a guy who gets the biggest dollar amount. Sometimes it doesn't work out well for him, right? Like look at Flacco when he was with the Ravens, and they signed him to that massive. It was a $90-some million deal. The highest deal of a quarterback, and he never brought him back to the Super Bowl. At least not that I remember. I could be wrong, but
I think they only went to the one with Flacco. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
and back when Kirk Cousins was a free agency, when Minnesota signed him, I think that was 2017 off season, 2018 season, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
$28 million. And Minnesota lost their minds.
Well, not only that, but it was the whole contract was guaranteed, which is something that's it was the first of its kind in the NFL. It just doesn't happen. And now more and more players are trying to go for that, even to the point where we're trying to hold out. But
do you think NFL players should get a fully guaranteed contract? Out of all the four major sports, NFL is the only one that doesn't have fully guaranteed contracts. Do you think they should, or do you think they shouldn't because the possibilities of injuries?
Well, I think me and you had talked about this in the past. I personally think that they should be guaranteed contracts, and then if it's due to injury, they can essentially, we'll say it's a career-ending injury, they can be on the injury reserve or something like that. And then that money won't count against your salary cap, because I think that could ultimately just really cripple a team.
Yeah.
Right. You end up getting a couple of your, biggest name players for whatever fluke reasons. They're out for, multiple seasons, they're out for their career. And now your salary cap is, essentially gone, and you have to bring back Trent Dilfer as your QB.
Super Bowl champion, baby. Now, it's obviously well known that coaches get paid a good dollar or two as well. And even if you get canned, you are guaranteed your contract. So coaches are guaranteed.
Yep.
And I
Absolutely.
believe, someone can correct me if I'm wrong on this, that the coach's contract does not count against the salary cap.
Correct. Yep.
Should it?
That's an interesting question because coaches with existing contracts, right? They can essentially, if their contract's coming up, they can be, recruited essentially from another team, right? And that other team will then, give them a pick, which is a player, right? That goes towards a salary cap. I mean,
there's been a couple coaches traded in the past.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Gruden is one.
Gruden is one. I think Belichick got traded too, didn't he?
Actually, I think you might be right.
I think he did.
Yeah.
Was it from Cleveland, or did he get fired from Cleveland? Something in the past. Yeah, I think he was one.
Yeah. I think he was going to. Yeah, I want to say that I think he was going to take over the Jets in place of
Parcells?
Yes, Bill Parcells. Yep. And then he basically reneged on that and then went to New England, which turned out to be probably the best decision he ever made.
No doubt.
Well, his wife and it might not agree, their kids and whatnot, but other than that, yeah.
Yeah.
Professionally, it was.
So another thing, since we got a little bit of time, I'm gonna bring this one up here. And it's not entirely sports, but as you heard, Joey Chestnut, the hot dog eating king of 17 years, champion or something like that, has been quote unquote banned from the Nathan's hot dog eating competition on the 4th of July. Because he's signed or has a contract.
The travesty of justice. It's
because he has a contract or a sponsorship with a vegan company. I don't know exactly what it is. I didn't pay that much attention to it. Probably just because he's not eating hot dogs, I probably won't turn the TV on for those 10 minutes. Not that I get hungry watching people eat 75 hot dogs. But not having Joey Chestnut is a little bit of it's a tradition having Joey Chestnut in
there. Well, I can't watch it. I find it just
the bread. The bread and water doesn't do it for you, huh?
Yeah, no. It's just yeah.
But in September,
makes me want to hurl.
In September, funny that this came out the day or two after, him and the retired Kobayashi, who couldn't feel full. That was his medical problem, so he stopped doing eating competitions. Now has chosen to, I don't know if he technically unretired for this event, but heads up hot dog eating contest against Joey Chestnut sometime in September on Netflix Live. So be sure to renew your Netflix, Gully, for that event.
Oh yeah, got to put that in the calendar. Yeah. So,
is there anything more? We kind of wrapped up a lot of things pretty fast today.
We did.
And that's not too bad. I think what we're gonna do is this here. We're gonna do a blind rank, and I'm gonna give you 5 quote unquote athletes, Gully, that you can blind rank.
Okay.
And the first one I'm gonna give you is Roger Clemens. 1 through 5.
All right. I'm going to start him off similar to the last ranking. And the first pick was Kirk Cousins, and I put him as number 2. I'm going to put him as number 2.
Okay. Your next athlete, Arnold Palmer.
Interesting. I mean, competition wise, he's got to be ranked up there. So I'm gonna slide him into my third spot.
Okay. And your next athlete, the late great Pele.
Well, obviously I know Pele was one of the greatest soccer players to play. Probably athletic wise, he is probably quite the specimen. I'm almost tempted to put him number one, but I think I'm gonna slide him into 4.
Okay. We have another late great Jerry West.
I'm gonna slide him into number 1.
Number 1, and what do you have left?
I don't know. You tell me.
I didn't write him down.
Just 5.
Just
5?
I
only have 5. I have number 5 left.
Number 5 left is Joey Chestnut.
Yes.
I think you nailed that one.
Right on. I think I did all right too.
I think for now I'm gonna wrap that up, Gully. Unless you got anything left, Coach, to
I do
tell your audience.
Actually, I think we talked about doing our NFL teams from the various decades.
Okay.
So I'm going to start it off. So here's the premise. We each get to pick a quarterback, a running back, wide receiver, tight end, and defensive end. Each one of them has to be from a different decade. So 70s to current.
So 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and 2010s to present?
Correct.
Okay. And we have a running back, quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, and a defensive player.
Yep.
All right.
So actually, I'll let you start on who your quarterback was.
My quarterback is Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
So I have the 2010s already taken off.
Interesting. That's
What
I have a Chief on my list as well.
Oh, Matt Castle. Huh?
We'll get to that. Yeah. How'd you know?
Because he's a Viking, bro.
No, actually, it's the Nigerian Nightmare.
Oh, okay.
Just kidding. Yeah. I was just doing a throwback. But my quarterback was actually Peyton Manning. That's my 2000s to 2010.
Okay. Yep. I like that.
Even though he could have been even the 2010 to present era as well. But
he could have. Yeah, he could have.
Yeah.
I think he was the most dominant in the 2000s.
Yeah.
Wide receiver. Should we go wide receiver next?
Sure.
I have Randy Moss, and I put Randy Moss in the 2000s.
Okay, right on.
So Patrick Mahomes to Randy Moss, it looks pretty good right now.
Yeah. I actually think talent-wise, I think Randy Moss is probably the best wide receiver of all time. But I still think statistically, I think you got to take Rice over him, and that's who I have as my wide receiver for the 80s.
For the 80s, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Running back.
All right, running back. I think I'm going to throw you a curveball on this one.
All right, well, you can lead this one.
So, my running back is from the 70s, and normally people would think it's probably Walter Payton, but mine is actually Earl Campbell.
Earl Campbell. I like it. Yes. I like it. I did go with Walter Payton, but I used the 80s Walter Payton.
Okay, right on. Yep.
Primarily the 85 Super Bowl team. I think most of his career was 80s, if I'm not mistaken. But
yeah, I think he started in 76. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Even Earl Campbell started, I want to say, in 78. But yeah, he was just dominant. He had such a short career, really. But
right.
He was just dominant.
I mean, that's a good aspect where you could, if we're going just by players in their prime, you could have gone like almost a Bo Jackson.
Oh, absolutely.
Which would have been a great sleeper as well. Tight end. Tight end is my curveball, Dave Casper from the 70s. And I think he creeped into the 80s as well from the Raiders and a little time with Minnesota.
Oh yeah, he was a very good tight end. You can't go wrong with that pick. But I was going to say, if you're going to pick somebody, I picked, since we were picking one from each decade, I could have gone Gronk. I could have gone, drawing a blank, played with KC and with Atlanta.
Tony Gonzalez.
But I picked Kelsey.
Okay. And you could have even gotten Antonio Gates, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And then lastly, a defender. Any defender. What decade do you have left?
So my decade I have left is the 90s.
90s.
Mm-hmm.
I do too. And I went with Mr. Primetime, Deion Sanders.
Yep. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Deion. He was dominant at his position.
Yep.
For sure. I went with Bruce Smith.
I was gonna say Bruce Smith, or even Reggie White would have been another.
I thought about Reggie White as well. But yeah, I went with Bruce Smith because in the early 90s, well, actually for all of the 90s, really, he was just a dominant pass rusher and just,
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, going to, 4 Super Bowls in a row. Now, granted, he never got a ring, but,
Yeah.
He basically anchored that defense.
I like it. Guys, who do you think won this battle, and what team would you guys have picked if you could pick one player from every decade? Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, defensive player. Let us know below.
Yes.
I would be very interested to see what other options are out there because it's endless.
Absolutely.
Endless. I actually I'm going to give you a second team just while we got a second.
Okay.
I kept Dave Casper. My quarterback, I went with Dan Marino from the 80s.
Okay. And so, interesting fact. So, in doing some of my research on this, I was looking at the NFL's all-decade teams. Right?
Okay.
Now, if you go back to the 80s and 90s when Dan Marino played, he is not on either of those lists.
Interesting. Well, somebody missed out.
That I would completely agree. So obviously Joe Montana was there from the 80s.
Yep.
And instead of Dan Marino, they put Dan Fouts.
I don't know if I agree with that one.
Yeah, Dan Fouts was a very good quarterback.
Solid.
But I don't know that he was
set records and set the precedent that I think just recently got broken on in recent years on particular stats.
Well, absolutely. I mean, he's probably the foundation for the modern quarterback, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they were just a passing game with, and they had Mark Clayton and Super Duper. I mean, come on, that was a prolific offense for the time.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
The other ones I had with Casper, Marino, 90s Barry Sanders.
Oh yeah, can't go wrong with Barry.
I went with 2010's Megatron.
Oh yeah. He is ranked right up there. I mean, obviously we're talking decades of players, so it's tough to say, but yeah, I mean, when you're talking about Jerry Rice, Megatron, and Randy Moss, I don't think you could name another better receiver.
I mean, T.O., Larry Fitzgerald, but it's a very select few when you get towards that top 5. And, depending on your preference, they're all probably going to be in there, just shuffled around different numbers,
Yep.
And no, guys, I didn't pick Prime and Megatron because I'm a Transformers fan, but it is kind of funny. And the last one was also a monster. My defensive player from 2000, Ray Lewis.
Interesting. Ray Lewis, you say?
So I wonder how that team would have fared up against the other team. It is also interesting. So that was my secondary. Was my secondary team.
Okay. Right on. Yeah, that's cool. I like it.
Yeah, that's fun. We'll try to do a couple more of these styles of stuff. Whether we do blind ranks, missing players, all decade teams, just a couple little fun games slash. I don't know if you'd call it trivia yet, but
Right.
I don't really know much, so we might be here for a while before we get answers.
One thing I do know is we both have, I think, good opinions and good takes on things. And that's why we're here.
Well, and that's for them to figure out if they want to agree
Right.
or disagree. We're only the couch coaches, so we can only tell you that we're right from our own home.
Exactly.
We're not on the sideline for a particular reason as well. So those with experience do surpass us. But yeah, that's all that I have for today, Gully.
That's all I got as well.
If you're following on TikTok, be sure to check us out on YouTube and on Spotify. And if you're listening from Spotify, go check out the YouTube and
absolutely
TikTok.
And while you're there on YouTube, go ahead and, click subscribe, ring the bell, and like it if you could.
Yeah, give us some comments. Give us some feedback. This is our second episode. We have a lot to work on. We're happy to be here, and we enjoy it. So we want to spend more time with you guys, and the more ideas you can bring to us to talk about or get your takes, we'll bring them up in the episodes to come.
Absolutely. Agreed.
But for now, ta-ta from the Coach's Cave.
Yep, sayonara.